We had our third seminar in the Principles and Practices Instructor Seminar Series last week. And for this one, we did online discussions, fostering and implementing online discussions, strategies, and tips. And for that, you and I had some things we had wanted to talk about, but we also picked two case studies of very different courses. One in English 175 with Todd Goddard in the English department, and the other one is a distance learning instructional design certificate program through UW-Stout with Jonathan Klein, who is a student in that course and also an LSS consultant here. Partly because they were so different but also had some similarities and successfully used online discussions in their courses, we wanted to present those. So Todd's course is an undergraduate only, mostly juniors and seniors, in-class instruction course here on campus at UW-Madison, and Jonathan's course is distance only, online only, graduate program through UW-Stout.
That was really great to have them involved so they could share their experiences. But how did we end up doing this? Why online discussions? Why was that the topic?
I think because it can be an easy idea to implement in the sense that there are lots of different possibilities for it from an instructor's perspective. You can throw it into a class for a few course components. You can use it throughout the entire semester. It's a really great resource. You get a lot out of it for both the instructors and for the students, so I think for that reason we wanted to be able to talk more about it.
Yeah, I think too, like, online discussions have been around for a long time, and so it would probably be easier to think that, you know, students know how to do this, I can just kind of let it happen organically. But as we talked about in our presentation, there really are a number of different things to think about to help this be a smooth experience in the course.
And the first one being advantages and potential goals for the online instruction, why incorporate it into your course at all. And I think that student engagement with it, it's another way of getting students to engage with the course materials, even getting the instructor to engage with the students. You have a different platform for it. It can be a very interactive learning environment, which is fun for everybody and gets them to look at the curriculum a little bit differently, interact with their peers a little bit differently, and the instructor to interact with his or her students a little bit differently too.
Yeah, it's almost become a platitude now that it's another mode of interaction, so the students that don't feel comfortable sharing their ideas in class, well, now they have another forum for that. And so it does give a chance to digest or reflect on ideas before you produce them, before you put it out there. I think sometimes we push it a little too far and we get this expectation that those that are quiet in class, those students are going to just erupt and blossom online. I don't know if that's really the case, but it does give another opportunity for interaction.
And along those same lines, it can really help with building class community. For a course like Todd's, where a lot of the instruction is done in person, in classroom, it was an extension of that helped foster class community on a different platform in a different type of way. For Jonathan's course, where it was distance learning only, solely online, that was the only way to build any type of class community, was have the students and the instructor interact with each other through the online discussion.
Right. And for all of this, to reach these goals, it's not the type of thing you can just turn on online discussions in your course management system and then voila, it just happens. There are a lot of things that the instructor needs to do in particular to make it work out well. And for me, I think, especially if your format is set up so that the instructor is asking the questions and students respond to the instructor and to each other, then the instructor really needs to ask good questions. And those good questions are going to be determined by what your goals are. If you're in, I don't know, a good example might be for a problem set for a physics course where you're discussing answers. It might not be the type of thing where you have like a lot of open-ended thread. You might kind of reach the answer that everyone agrees on and then you move on to something else. But if your goal is to have more open-ended discussion, then you need to ask questions that lead to that. Asking opinion questions or providing enough of a chunk of a text so that you can have something to work from. But also encouraging your students in their responses to give their thoughts and then ask for other students' thoughts at the end. And then you can also generate a lot of responses by asking questions and then putting at the end, the goal is to generate as many different viewpoints as possible for this question. And if you have a topic where your students might not be very familiar with it, they can help to ask elaborated questions, where you have your question and then you propose 2 or 3 different ways that you could approach the question. So they have something to work from. They don't have to just kind of feel through it on their own. They can select, I'm going to use approach A, and this is what I think about it.
I think that's another really important role of the instructor, is to determine what the role of the students is in the online discussion. So ahead of time, the instructor should be thinking about, how much do I want my students to be participating? Are they observers? Are they generators? Are they forming questions? Are they only replying to questions? Who is their audience? Are they discussing with each other? Are they discussing with me as the instructor? So to set up and very clearly outline what the role of the students is for the students, so that when they go in to participate, they're very clear about what their role is.
Yeah, and you can enlist students to help keep the discussion going too, to have them do some of the moderating. You don't have to be the sole moderator for a discussion. Just as in a class, you might tap on someone's shoulder and say, hey, can you work with this group now, to kind of keep it working, keep it flowing. Also, along with the question of moderating and continuity of discussion, a lot of students in feedback have always said they enjoy when the instructor is involved in the discussion. But we've also found that sometimes instructors will stifle a discussion because it's perceived that when the instructor intervenes, that he or she gives the definitive answer. And that shouldn't be the case, but I think what an instructor can do, even if he or she does answer a question, to then ask follow-up questions, or don't answer a question. Instead, refer the students to a portion of the text that could help them grapple with the question that they have, or to another site, or refer to an in-class discussion, and then they can ask follow-up questions with it. And then that will help the students know what the expectation is, that it's for them to discuss, not for them to ask questions and have the instructor come in and answer them.
Right. And I think that for the students to get a lot out of the online discussion, they should be very aware and very clear on what they need to be doing, what the instructor's role is, what their participation level should be, maybe even a modeled post, an example post from the instructor about what the instructor expects, how many times per week, what is the depth, the thoughtfulness of that post. Is it quantity over quality? Are you responding to your peers' posts? If so, how often are you doing that? Just to facilitate, once you can establish some of those ground rules, and then the students knowing exactly what they should be doing, they can kind of take it and run with that.
Yeah, have to have those clear expectations up front, so they maybe even more than you would expect that you would need, so that they can feel comfortable knowing what their assignment is and what they need to do.
Also, because if you're incorporating the online discussion, it's fitting into your curriculum somehow. It's fitting in with the rest of your course materials. And just the same way you've outlined all the rest of your course materials, the books they might need to buy, why they're reading X, Y, and Z, the importance of all of that, that role of the online discussion in the rest of your semester in your course setup needs to be well defined and well outlined for your students.
Right, and these clear expectations are a reflection of having a clear goal, a clear purpose in mind for using the forum. And if your purpose is to have a real informal space, then your expectations for like language usage and that sort of thing might be different. It might be okay to use abbreviations and emoticons and text speak and that sort of thing, but if you really want to show that this is academic discourse, then it might be different. I'd have to have like complete sentences and paragraphs and proper citations of the text and so forth.
And maybe that's not your goal, and maybe you'd like to have it be a more casual forum, or maybe you'd like to have it be a combination of both of them. But then again, make sure to clearly define for your students what type of discussion this is, so that when they're turning in their material, by having the online discussion, they're turning in their work to you. Right. They're presenting their work to you and to their peers, that they know that they are giving you what you've asked for. And I think that another crucial component to that is the assessment of that.
Oh, yeah.
Really, because every part of the course is graded in some way, is assessed in some way, a major way or a minor way. The students, even if you're making it a really informal type of discussion, informal format, the students in a class, they expect to have the quality of their work assessed. That gives them necessary feedback so they know how they're doing with the online discussion, with the course in general, and it also communicates to them that this is important. This is not just an an add-on. It's not just an afterthought. It's helping them with the production of their work in your course and throughout the semester. And having the online discussion graded in some way or assessed in some way will help communicate that to them.
Yeah, if the type of grade or amount to the percentage of their grade makes it seem like this is just kind of a minor part and add on to the course, it's going to show up in the quality of the work there too.
Right.
You can't expect them to dedicate a whole lot of time to it if they're not getting that, if it's not a part of either their grade or a part of a bigger project. I think that also along with that, we should consider having the online discussion replace some of the assignments, not just having more and more and more to do for the students, but maybe it replaces some writing assignments or some part of the participation.
Yeah, and if going along with it replacing a component of the course, it could also feed into a bigger project that they have to do. The online discussion could be part of their preparation for an end of semester essay or a collaborative project that is a large percentage of their grade, and the online discussion could help facilitate that. Also, I think it's important to keep in mind that however major or minor the online discussion is in your class, whatever kind of role it plays, their grade percentage of their final grade, whatever kind of work they're turning in, should correspond directly to that.
Right.
So if it's a really minor part of your class, don't make it 15% of their overall grade.
Yeah.
If it's a major assignment that they're working on every night, maybe they're posting 2 to 3 times a week, they're giving very thorough, very in-depth responses, then maybe it is 15% of their overall grade dedicated just to the online discussion.
Definitely. I think just as important to integrating it into the curriculum that you've set for your course is integrating the content from an online discussion and into the class discussion if you have a face-to-face class and the online discussion is a part of that. Taking, for instance, say in your in-class discussion, say as student X mentioned in his or her post last night, this is the big concept for this chapter, let's discuss it more in class. And so have it be a way to inform what you discuss. And Todd, the English instructor that we had that presented with us, said that he used it as a way to see kind of where the energy was for his course. And so he could select some course, in-class discussion topics, seeing where people just kind of, what topics had more traction in the online discussion.
That was a great idea, and I liked how he integrated a lot of multimedia in with that too. The one thing you want to be careful of doing that outside the classroom and inside the classroom is just to consider accessibility.
Absolutely,
with that.
Yeah.
The needs of your students and the needs of your audience. If your audience might be greater than your students or might be larger than your students. So
great. Well, one thing in the discussion, or what we didn't talk about much in our presentation, is this idea of authentic audience, where students are writing in an online discussion, not just a reading response that's handed to the instructor reads it and hands it back. And so when you're writing for the whole class, then your audience grows. And one thing that I've noticed, especially at the Teaching and Learning Symposium that we had last May, that for all types of projects, that many faculty and other instructors on campus noted that their students seemed to have more motivation and put more into their work when their audience was greater than just the instructor. It seemed like a more authentic learning experience that way for them.
I think that it can also help if you have the time and the space for it to let your students express some of their opinions. Maybe your class materials are very limited, but if you can allow the room in a literal and figurative way for your students to add in some of their experiences from other classes or other discussions that they've had that relate to but don't directly correspond to the material you're talking about in your class, it can be a much more authentic discussion.
Right. I agree.
Excellent.
So where are we going next?
Next, we have 3 more lined up for the spring, and the first one in February is going to deal with using and incorporating technology in a non-equipped classroom.
All right.
So looking forward to it.
Certainly.